Welcome everyone, Costini here with a discussion about Cyberpunk 2077 patch 2.0, and there have been a huge number of improvements to the game, though there are still issues in the game. Fundamental issues, I would argue, with regards to how CD Projekt Red handle the game. Now, CD Projekt does recommend you start a new save, but as someone who has put in a lot of hours in this game already, I am not doing that, though it might be causing some of the balance issues that I am seeing. But before we talk about gameplay, we talk about balance, let's actually talk about settings over here. So, when it comes to graphics, the game now has DLSS 3.5, so we got ray reconstruction, we get frame generation. We've had frame generation in the game, though for a while, but with mostly everything maxed out, with the exception of like screen space reflections being on ultra as opposed to psycho, and ray tracing and path tracing being enabled, basically like technology preview, if you will. But with everything turned on, more or less, the game runs at anywhere between 60, 65 or so to 80 FPS. And generally it's around that 70 FPS mark. And it's able to do this consistently. Now, performance, like FPS is not an issue. Frame generation seems to work pretty well for the most part. There is some ghosting I've noticed, but relatively rare, and the only issues where I might have problems in terms of the game's performance are like issues with a lot of NPCs. I just don't have necessarily the best CPU to be able to handle it. I have an i7 13th gen Intel CPU. I haven't overclocked it. Yes, it's not really quite the best CPU right now. It's been out for a couple of years at the moment, and it's certainly starting to show its age with respect to titles like this. But for the most part, when it comes to the performance and stability, because I've been playing a reasonable number of hours right here, it does seem like the game does run pretty well, is quite stable. I haven't had issues with regards to the game and its performance. The one problem is latency. So I'm getting 60, 70, 90 ms in terms of latency, and it is noticeable. Now, sure, I could turn off ray tracing if I wanted to do so, but turning off ray tracing and frame gen may not necessarily give me the results. Like, it could give me like, I don't know, 30 or so ms, but it's not just going to drop it to a very low amount. I'm not quite sure. Is it the CPU nature of the game, like the CPU heavy nature of the game, like I would need to potentially tune down a significant number of settings. Okay, so that's performance. It does seem vastly improved. But I want to be very clear. It's not and never has been the case that technical issues brought down Cyberpunk. That is a load of crap shit that the media likes to spin. The media that was quite willing to give this game very high scores when it didn't deserve it. Also, I love the fact that the Wikipedia for everything related to video games, as opposed to pretty much any other subject, even like very very sensitive politics, like for gaming, for video games, or well, movies in general as well, like movies, entertainment, like anything entertainment is like just reads like propaganda pages more or less, where none of the major issues that exist for anything are really discussed. So what are those? So I'll talk about those issues, but first let's go over what's changed. Your skill set is significantly overhauled in the game. So I don't quite remember how everything used to work before, but like it just felt like I remember before, like a lot of these things, certainly some were useful, other things didn't necessarily feel that useful. You were mainly spending points like just because of like the passive effects, like spending a lot of points in here and the options that would open up for you as a player. Now, however, there's a lot of useful skills. I mean, there were before, sure, but it's like, let's take a look at it. Body improves your shotguns, LMGs, and HMGs, improves your HP and health regen, and improves your capability with blunt weapons. Also, like, when we're thinking about that, like, we get adrenaline rush mode. So we can use, like, health items that give us adrenaline equal to 30% max HP, up to a 50% max HP. So we can get some extra HP to survive damage. That is actually going to be quite important when it comes to survivability. Reflexes affect assault rifles and SMGs. It also improves your dodging, dashing, as well as your blade skills. So if you want to go with blades, yeah, reflex might be the way to go. Technical ability improves your HP items and grenades, improves your cyberware, and also improves your tech weapons. Intelligence improves your just hacking ability in general, if we're looking at that. And cool improves your pistols, revolvers, precision sniper rifles, your movement range. Also, should point out reflexes, like, they improve, like, yeah, assault rifles, SMG. That's how that works right now. The biggest change by far, I would argue, though, is like not the skill line, not the character system, not the skill progression system that we now have. Rather, I would say the biggest change is like how items are handled. So weapons, cyberware, etc., like weapons have largely stayed the same, but armor has not. So it used to be that the way you would increase your survivability is you would take pieces of gear and you would introduce armor slots. That would increase your armor, that would increase your survivability, because armor would reduce the damage you're taking. But you would need a very huge amount of armor to be able to survive on the highest difficulty. This is, by the way, what this video is on. So like this particular video, if we're looking at it, it is set to very hard, right? And pretty sure it can't go, yeah. So yeah, it's set to the highest difficulty. It was very easy to die beforehand. It was very hard to increase your survivability, and a lot of enemies were bullet spongy. What's changed with respect to that? Well, enemies can still be very much bullet spongy. And I do think that one of the fundamental issues of the game that they haven't fixed is related to that. But the way you increase your survivability and you gain abilities, etc., is through the cyberware system. Like, of course, that was already the case beforehand, but like right now, like the clothing you're wearing is not really important. There are some that do increase your stats, but not like they increase certain aspects, like, but very, very minor. So, like, I could get a tactical vest that might give me a 7% reload time reduction. I could get a helmet that gives me 6% melee damage resistance, but effectively, like, all of the clothing you're wearing is meaningless. It's all down to cyberware. And cyberware, like, you have a cyberware capacity. You can increase it with various skills that you do have access to. So one of the things you can get is like Renaissance Punk, and that will like you can increase like you can increase like just cyberware in general. Like you can get cyberware slots. You can increase cyberware capacity for each attribute at 9 or higher. And you can get Edge Runner, which gives you 50 cyberware capacity at the cost of 0.5% max HP per point. So you may sacrifice a lot of HP for effectively armor if you do decide to go for that. So there's a limit, but you can increase it, and you can upgrade various things. You can gain a good amount of power with this. Primarily, I would say, like, one of the things that's important, like skeleton stuff, like adds a significant amount of armor, which is damage reduction. So the more armor you have, the less damage you receive. Another thing to also keep in mind is like how your quick access items now work. So it used to be like you just get a lot of like blood pumps or med kits and you just spam them more or less, right? That's how it would work before. That is no longer the case. So they're infinite use. Once you get them, you get them. I need to probably get like a blood pump tier 5 if I can get my hands on that. but now they're infinite use with a certain limit.
Stop finishing myself!
And the game might okay, let me just pull back because I obviously would die there. That's the adrenaline kicking in there, by the way. So instead of just spamming medkits, spamming grenades like every time, like, cause like the way you deal with certain hard fights is that you just spam medkits, right? Because it was very, very easy to die, and that didn't create a great gameplay dynamic. Now it's still easy to die, don't get me wrong on that, but there's also something else to keep in mind: mitigation. So the way that works is, so you have mitigation chance, and this can be increased by various skills, and you have mitigation strength. Now mitigation reduces the damage you're taking. So if we look at, actually it's gonna be in body, I think. No, it's probably not. So like for instance, when using blood pump, cyber or health item, I get a 100% mitigation chance for 2 seconds. Mitigation grants a chance to reduce incoming damage by current mitigation strength. The default is 50%. So that's one of the things you can use to like reduce the damage you're taking in a fight. Using like you can use health items, you can get mitigation while dodging, sliding, staying in cover, shooting from cover, all those kind of things. Those are some of the options that are available in the game in order to increase survivability, stay alive, deal with your enemies. Now, despite these improvements, you still have issues, and yes, I know I'm a terrible shot. You still have issues in terms of... Okay, that's a fun one. There we go, but not a headshot. You still certainly have issues of, like, just enemies being very durable. And this is like, these guys are just street trash, I should point out. Like, they're just random enemies I'm finding on the street. They're not bosses. They're not like hardcore enemies. Sure, they might be in a bit higher of an area.
Oh God, I'm hit!
Then might be reasonable, but still, they are again not special enemies. They're nothing like that. Just regular street trash gangers. That is it. That I'm dealing with over here. There's a lot of loot that I'm seeing on the street. Jack Fisher. Okay. And believe me when I say, like, when it can get a significant, far worse than this. In fact, let me just demonstrate how far worse it can get in comparison. Because, yeah, you ain't seen nothing yet. And this is one of the reasons I decided to quit the game. Honestly, like, the story honestly wasn't that interesting in a lot of ways, but like, it's just what I'm about to show you. Here's a cyber psycho. I just threw 2 grenades in his damn face, and it's like he just doesn't care. Shotgun blast to the face, it's like he's dodging it. And he is quite capable. Like, it takes multiple shotgun blasts to the face for me to do any kind of real damage to this guy. It creates a situation. Now, I'm not sure if it would help if I, start a new playthrough, maybe change the enemy scaling, all that kind of stuff. I have no idea. I also don't think that it's my goddamn problem for CD Projekt Red to fix this issue. And if your solution is to tell the people that actually played your game to like, oh yeah, just throw your progress away, that's a really crap situation. So it's this situation right here, like where you have where this is called balance, where you really see how bad the game is. And it's not just like, oh, the combat encounter is hard. It's not, it's hard. It's like, this is not hard. I'm just gonna sit behind this corner and take 100 sniper shots, and then I'm gonna kill him if I land those sniper shots, right? And use the infinite amount of HP. Like beforehand, I would just bring a lot of medkits, and I would make sure that for a fight like this, I'd have to bring a significant number of medkits. Now, since I have them infinite, at least that's something I got going for me. And yeah, just need to use the cyber malfunction, and also abusing how broken the AI can be. That is a bit silly, isn't it? But it's like he's got, like, he can take one sniper shot, one headshot. Got a pink Pan Am, by the way. That's her sniper rifle. Like, one sniper shot does about 1% of his HP in terms of damage. And it's like doing 700 damage when it connects. If it connects, which is never guaranteed. Like, you're in this kind of situation where you have to, like, get weapons like these to do any damage, but guess what? They can dodge them. Oh yes, that's a fun dynamic right there. That you're dealing with. So he's got 75,000 HP, I might add. Whereas like a regular, like a sniper rifle, which should be a high damage weapon, can only do 1% of that potentially in a hit. He might actually have like 80,000 HP, I think. And like grenades, just not gonna do anything to this guy. Now, what's the problem with this beyond just like having some really annoying combat experiences? Well, having to stack up a lot of ammo for just these kind of encounters, like let's use Kebie.
Premature discharge. I'm sorry. This never happens.
But also, what it really takes to deal with this. It's like, one of the problems that these kind of encounters create, and just like the poor balancing in general with regards to the game. Yes, Kebie is in headshot mode, yes, indeed. One of the problems these kind of combat encounters create with respect to the game is the fact that what they really force you to do, and this is why it's so horrible what we have right here, it's like it forces you to grind. It's not like you're doing missions for the enjoyment they provide. You're not doing them because of a sense of challenge. Like even this, like you could consider this a quote-unquote hard combat encounter. It's like, it's not. Like having enemies that take a long time to kill does not make them challenging. Even if they can two-shot. Like, if I get to melee with this guy, he will two-shot me. Let's just use Cyberware, because, like, he's getting on my nerves. But the real issue is like it forces you to grind and grind and grind for the sake of experience. Not even for the sake of item, you're just literally doing it for the sake of experience. That is the issue. And I'm just gonna stop. Like this guy's not worth it really. He's not worth my goddamn time, honestly. And I've already killed him anyway in a separate save. True story. Let me just load that. It took a while. Like, if I had more pistol ammo, I could use Kebie to just annihilate him, or if I had more assault rifle ammo, because I have smart weapons. It just feels like, what the fuck were you? Like, it's like, yeah, that fuck you statement is just like how I feel CD Projekt Red balanced this game. It's like, screw you, players. It's like, and it's like, we're still not going to do anything about that. 3 years down the line. 3 years. Just gonna point that out. So it's like, don't believe the hype from people. It's like, oh, the game is much better. It is. It is much better. This is still not great. And I'm gonna say it outright. I think CD Projekt the balancing team at CD Projekt Red has always done a crap job. Like Witcher 3, Witcher 2, Witcher 1. We can go, yeah, every single game that they've released. Like, I don't know what the hell they're thinking or what their thought process is, or if they even care. But like, the balancing in every single game has not been great. It's just that Cyberpunk is the worst example of it all. But I remember enemies that would one-shot me in like Witcher 2. On any on like the higher difficulties. I remember in Witcher 1 just getting Igni to a high level and one-shotting every goddamn boss in the game. Or two-shotting at worst. In Witcher 3, it's like either you one-shot the enemy, including bosses, or they one-shot you. Balance. And I might add, that was like, it didn't matter what build you went with. Like, some builds would give you, like, oh, you could die in 2 free hits, right? That was the difference. But the balancing has always been crazy, and the difficulty design has always been completely out there.
This is all fucked up.
Now this is more reasonable, don't get me wrong. And hey, I gotta love a smart shotgun.
Got him!
But I do die. Because apparently, someone shooting at you with an actual shotgun will do less damage than someone hitting you in the head with a baseball bat or something along those lines. But it is certainly a high level of frustration with that. And I don't think that's necessarily going to change for CD Projekt. I don't think the idea of making balanced gameplay, it's like they have a lot of gold gameplay ideas, but it's like they make a lot of these skills that they have in their games, they end up making them meaningless because it's like, well, we gotta have enemies that want you. Why the fuck would you do that? Like, it's, you know what, I'll just compare it. Elden Ring doesn't do that. In fact, that's quite exactly the opposite. In Elden Ring, if you build your character in a certain way, you will smash through enemies. Like, you will annihilate enemies. Whereas in CD Projekt games, including Cyberpunk, you're in this situation where it's like, you need to build your character in a specific way just to have a chance to not get slaughtered on the goddamn streets.
Killing us off one by one.
Let's try and take him out. And that's where I get annoyed. So maybe I should just play it on a lower difficulty and it could be more enjoyable. It certainly runs better than it did before. That's my conclusion. It's like, it's a better experience than it was before, but it's still not good. It's still not like this, like, we shouldn't pretend that, like, it's some amazing title right now. And also, I'm just gonna leave it there. 3 years to fix a game. Like, is this gonna be the norm in? Is this gonna be the norm going forward with regards to games? Is this what we expect? I mean, God knows we've seen enough with, like, Starfield as well. Like, I'm not gonna pretend that there aren't worse things out there. There are, to be absolutely sure about it. There absolutely are worse titles. Well, let's not pretend CD Projekt Red has done some amazing things right here, because they have not. Performance, balancing, sure. Well, not balancing. It's different. But you can still die quickly. It just isn't the case that, like, enemies just
Get him the fuck off
okay.
me!
And it explodes. Alright, that's it. Costin, signing out. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and enable notifications, and stay tuned for more.